Welcome to the Inconceivably Connected podcast. I'm your host and fellow donor-conceived person, Nick Ludwig. We are now up to episode 3 of the series, and this week we are joined by our first male guest of the show, Mitch Scarmardo of Dallas, Texas. As we dive into Mitch's story, I suspect you'll notice pretty quickly his glass half full mindset around his new genetic discovery, and really life in general. It's one that I admire, and I'm always particularly curious about what's at the root of a donor-conceived person's optimism, or even playful attitude towards it all. I think it's pretty easy to imagine how finding out you're donor-conceived can cause deep distress in any number of areas in life. But what's at the root of a more lighthearted view of it all? I think and hope we uncovered a few of those answers as it pertains to Mitch. Fair warning, we did experience some technical difficulties as we were recording this one, which you'll hear in the audio quality on the back half of the episode. And you may also notice Mitch's young kids trying to make their presence felt at times. We welcome it all here on the podcast. Anyway, let's dive into Mitch's story. Hope you enjoy it.
Nick, thanks for having me on, man. This is going to be a fun conversation. I'm excited. Thanks for allowing me to share everything. My name is Mitch Scarmardo. I'm 28. I live here in Dallas, Texas. So my story's pretty cool. I actually only found out about a year ago, a little over a year ago. I was 27. It was a pretty interesting way it happened and story and fun stuff. So kind of some background. My parents were divorced. I've known them. They got divorced when I was really little. I was probably like 2. I was a baby. And then I have an older brother, but he is a half-brother that I knew was a half-brother from a different marriage. And so my mom had a marriage before my dad, and so did my dad. My older brother is my half-brother. We're 10 years apart. And I knew that he and I had different dads since I was probably about like 10. And then my dad has 2 kids from his first marriage, so I also have 2 half-sisters from there. Didn't grow up super close with them or anything like that. But so growing up, it was me and my mom and my brother pretty much until I was like 2, until I was about 10. And then my mom got remarried to my stepdad, and they're still married today and all that cool stuff. And so that was kind of my family dynamic growing up. Saw my dad's side of the family pretty often growing up. I got a lot of cousins, big Italian family. So my dad's one of 5, a lot of cousins my age. I'm one of the younger cousins though. So we did a lot of stuff growing up, hung out with them a lot. And then as I got older, so did my older cousins, so I stopped seeing that family a little bit more. I probably saw my dad probably about just for the holidays and whatnot during the year. That's kind of how it was until I got married, started seeing my family a little bit more, which was really cool and whatnot. And then my wife, and then we have 2 daughters. And so we just started to spend a lot more time with my dad's side of the family over the past couple of years, getting a lot closer to them, which is really cool. She talks to my cousins every day, which is awesome. I always joke around, if it wasn't for my wife, I don't know if I'd be this close to my side of the family, so I'm definitely thankful for her in that, for sure. And so that kind of just turned into us spending time with them a little bit more. And so one day my dad came up to Dallas, so they're about 3 hours away. But he came up here for my daughter's birthday, and my dad's birthday is the day before my daughter's, so we just made like a whole celebration weekend, which was cool. And so we let the kids stay with my mother-in-law, and we took my dad out to dinner. We took him out to dinner, just us, and after dinner we were driving him back to his hotel, and my wife made this comment, people don't always think me and my dad look the same, which makes sense now. But she was sitting in the back seat and went to drop him off. We're like pulling into the hotel, and my wife was like, the more I like see you guys together, the more I can see the resemblance. And my dad just like kind of paused for a second and was like, you really? She was like, yeah, I can kind of see it. My dad was like, well, that's funny. And just like paused. And it felt like an eternity of a pause. And we're like, what's so funny about that? Like, I don't get it. And he was like, well, don't tell your mom that I told you this, but when we got married, I couldn't have kids. And I was like, oh, okay. So what does that mean? And he was like, so we had a couple options. It was like, but long story short, like we used a sperm donor. And in that moment, I was just like, I thought it was a joke. I laughed at first. And then I looked back in the back seat. My wife wasn't laughing. And I was like, oh, shoot. Like, this is real. And my dad was like, yeah, but don't tell your mom. And meanwhile, this is all in like the drive-through of the hotel because we're dropping him off. And he was just like, all right, I'll see you guys tomorrow for the party. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Like, no, wait. We have a lot more to talk about.
Exactly. And my wife gets in the front seat and shuts the door and looks at me and she's like, what just happened? And I was like, I don't know. What did, and at that point, like, I think I had to like wrestle with it. I was like, what did I just find out? And, so yeah. And then the craziest part is like the next day, it's like all of our families together for my daughter's birthday party. And like, here I know this thing. And I'm like my mom and my stepdad are there. My dad's there. I've got aunt, uncles, and cousins and my brother and like all these people there. And I'm like, who knows? Like, so I didn't bring it up for probably a week or two. I just kind of internalized it and kind of wrestled with it and was just like, how do I feel about this? And the initial feeling was obviously shock. Is this true? Like, is my dad just playing a really big joke on me? Like, what? Like, and so I was just shocked at first and a little bit confused. But I didn't go anywhere with the thought yet, just because I was like, I gotta confirm this. I gotta make sure this is legit. And so I called my brother probably about a week after I found out. And so I called him and was on the phone with him and was like, hey man, we were just chit-chatting, and I was like, Dad told me something that was kind of a shock for me. And he was like, yeah? And I was like, he told me he's like not my biological dad. And it's just like, again, felt like an eternity of silence on the other end of the phone. Mm-hmm. And I just hear him take a big deep breath, and he goes, yeah, I've known about that pretty much my whole life. And I was like, wow. Yeah? And he's like, I just didn't think it was my place to tell you. He was like, if anyone needed to tell you, it was mom or dad. I was like, okay, makes sense. I was like, okay, who else knows? Like, who else knows? And he was like, well, honestly, I don't know if mom even knows that I know. I was like, okay, how'd you find out? He was like, well, dad told me. And I was like, okay. I was like, how long ago? He was like, pretty long ago. Like, you were probably a baby. I was young. I was like, okay. So dad's slowly spilling the beans, I guess, is how it was working. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, well, I don't know how to bring this up to mom. Like, because again, my dad told me the whole time, don't tell your mom. And I was like, listen, clearly this has been a secret, and I'm tired of secrets. Like, I don't want to do that. And so, yeah. A couple weeks later, Thanksgiving came around, and I was like, well, I live 3 hours away from my family. I'll be in person. Like, this is probably the time to do it, I guess. And so the first person I talked to, we were staying at my grandma's house, and I was like, this is the person, like, I know I can talk to about anything, the person I trust the most. Like, my grandma's going to have good advice, too, like how to bring this up to my mom. And so we're sitting in her house the day before Thanksgiving, and I asked her, I was like, hey, I just want you to know that I know the whole situation of like dad not being like my biological dad. I just don't know how to bring it up to mom. And like, she kind of got a little quiet and was like, my grandma's the best. She was like, yeah, what do you want to know? I've got all the paperwork in the cabinet. Like, what do you want to know? And I was like, all right, this is cool. Thank you for this. And so first she gave me advice on like, obviously you should bring it up to your mom. Like, you just got to bring it up. Like, it's a Band-Aid. Got to rip it off. She's like, I don't think it's, she's like, I don't even know. We don't even talk about it anymore. But I think it's important that you talk to her and that she knows that you know. It's like, yeah, I agree. She's like, okay, cool. Well, in the meantime, I'll go get all the paperwork for you. Like, I want you to learn. And so she brings out this paperwork in this envelope that, again, probably hasn't been opened since, I was born in 1996, so probably hasn't been opened since 1996. And photocopies back then were awful. And so it's this just very basic, like, 3 pages of paperwork. And it's like copies of the original paperwork that the donor filled out, actually, just of personal information. And so it's this paperwork, and it doesn't have the donor's name. Obviously, everything's anonymous, but it has the donor number, and it just has information about them, like height, weight, hair color, eye color, interests, hobbies, talents, skills, pretty much all the stuff that you would want to look at when you're, choosing a donor. And it was wild because it was like 5'11", brown eyes, brown wavy hair, facial hair, just like all these things. I'm looking at it, and I'm like, this sounds just like me. And the donor had all these academic accolades, like super smart guy, and I like to consider myself a super smart guy. And it was kind of just like uncanny, like reading this thing that was also like in his handwriting, which was even cooler. And I was like, this is weird. Like, this sounds so much like me. Like, this makes sense. And so it was kind of cool. And so at that point I was like, all right, well, I got to bring it up to my mom. And so Thanksgiving rolls around, I bring it up to her. Pretty emotional moment for her, for sure. She, kind of a shock to her, her whole thing was like, one, how'd you find out? You weren't supposed to know. And then 2, like, how do you feel about it? And for me, again, it was that one thing where I kind of was wrestling it for a while, and I was like, honestly, like, it doesn't change anything about how I feel like our family feels about me. Like, if anything, I kind of feel more loved knowing that you guys wanted a son so bad, or a kid, or whatever. You want another kid so bad that you went through the jumps and hurdles and hoops of finding a donor, paying for a donor, and going through this process to have another son. Like, that's honestly, it makes me feel really good. There's still the component of like, why, wasn't I told growing up, whatever. And that's another bridge we'll cross later. But in that moment I was like, I feel loved, and I'm okay with this. Like, this doesn't change anything about how I grew up. It doesn't change anything about who was in my life. Like, literally all this changes is my DNA, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay. And so relaying that message to my mom at first was probably the biggest thing, because I could tell she was pretty emotional about it. And, I think for her, the emotion behind it was just because I think back then, the world of donors and whatnot, and just, having kids the non-natural way at the time, 30 years ago was probably a little taboo, like, honestly, versus how the industry is now, and how things have changed, and the dynamics of marriages have changed, and it's a little more open and a little more accepted probably now than it was 30 years ago, for sure. So I think maybe that was behind it. But I don't know. We haven't had that conversation of like, why did you hide it from me, kind of thing. But I think at first, like, my emotions kind of went from shock to, hey, like, I'm okay with this, a little bit of confusion, and did have a little bit of anger towards my mom, of like, why didn't you tell me? Like, I'm married, I have 2 kids that now have a quarter of DNA that I don't know about. And so there's a lot of that stuff going through my head of like, why didn't you tell me? But at the same time, I'm like, whether I found out or not, it's not going to change anything. It was just more of like the trust behind it all. It wasn't the fact of being a sperm donor, conceived person. It was more of, just the trust behind it all, And so, so now my mom found out that like I knew everything and whatnot. And, it just, kind of started to spread around the family that I knew. And so my mom's side of the family is really small. So it's really just like my stepdad, my brother, my grandma. That's it. My dad's side, on the other side, huge, massive Italian family. And so I got to talk to them, and I was like, all right, who knows? And everyone was like, thank God, every single person knows. Like, everyone has known your entire life. Like, aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody has known. But they were just like, my brother, like, we didn't think it was our place to tell you. Like, you should have heard it from your mom, like, whatever kind of thing. And then I could tell there was a huge relief to them. And, I mean, even growing up, like I told you, I don't look anything like my dad, obviously. Didn't know growing up, and I made a lot of comments like that growing up of like, I look nothing like you guys. Or like they would make all the jokes of like, you're the good looking one in the family. And like, I just never put two and two together growing up. I was just like, I do look a lot like my mom. So I was like, maybe that's just what it is. But like, we made all these jokes growing up, and they knew, which is the funniest part. And so now it's this massive joke. Like, we make dad jokes left and right on that side of the family. We just love to banter and give each other some crap here and there. And it's just become the joke. And it doesn't offend me. I think it's hilarious. I make the jokes like it's a good time. And so definitely didn't, I don't let it affect me in any negative way. It's a part of my story and a part of who I am, which is really cool. And then over time, it's just become even cooler. Because at first I was like, my wife was like, well, do you want to find out like anything else about like anything? Like, do you have siblings out there? Do you want to find the donor? Like what? And I was like, I really don't know. Like, it wouldn't change anything, but I guess it would be kind of cool to know maybe. But I'm also a very science-minded person, really invested in like health and wellness and everything. So I do for a living. And so I was like, I kind of want to do like a DNA test just to see like genetics. Like, I'm just curious. So I found out about being donor conceived in October of 23, talked to my family about it November of 23, and then I took a DNA test, would have been like January, February of 24, so a little over a year ago. And took the DNA test, and funny enough, I was sick when I took it. It came back with like inaccurate results. It was like, we have to get another sample. It's like, oh gosh, now I have to wait 6 more weeks. So got it back, send it off, whatever. Finally got the results at the end of February of 24. And I told my wife, I was at work when I got them, and I was like, hey, I got the results. I won't open them until we get home. We can look at them together, whatever. So we get home, we open them, and immediately the first thing you look at is like, okay, what are my genetics? Like, what does it say I'm from or whatever? And, I mean, kind of what I expected, 50% Italian, which is kind of like was part of the donor selection for my family, because my dad's side of the family is Italian. So, made sure there was an Italian donor. So 50% Italian, which is obviously from the donor, and then just other stuff like European stuff from my mom's side, which we knew about. And then the next thing I swiped to was like, screw all the like health stuff and like screw all the, how likely am I to have male hair loss? Like, no, I'm like, get to the good stuff. Go to the family tree. And I think the first thing that popped up was like, I don't know, 12 half siblings or something like that was the first number I saw. And I was like, whoa, like, this is interesting. And so I did 23andMe, and in that testing, you can see names. And so I can see names of people, and I'm like, wow. And then you also have the opportunity to message people if you want. And my wife was like, well, are you going to message someone? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not going to go out and like search the depths of all this. If something comes to me, cool, but I'm not. And I kid you not, like 2 hours later, I got a message popped up. Mm-hmm. And it was one of my half brothers. And all the message said was, hey, saw we got connected as half siblings. Not sure what you know, but if you want to know more, I'll talk to you. Mm-hmm. I was like, no more? I was like, what more is there to know besides like I'm donor conceived and I've got half siblings out there? Like what is there more to know? And so I replied, and I was like, yeah, man, I'm assuming you're also donor conceived, and I'm not yet. I don't know what you know, but I just found out. Like, what do you have for me, kind of thing. And he was like, oh yeah, man, congrats on finding out. Like, this is huge. I'll be straight up with you. We have a massive group message with all the half siblings. If you want to join in, it's just a little Facebook group message. And I was like, what the heck? What is there to lose? I'm just going to be able to learn more, I guess. I was like, yeah, sounds good. Let's do it. And he was like, cool. Also, just a heads up, I want you to know the donors in this group as well.
Whoa.
I'm like,
okay.
yeah. I was like, whoa, okay. For the first thing I thought was like, how'd you find it? Like, how did this happen? But then the other part of me was like, also, yeah, let's go. I looked at my wife and I was like, here's your answers. If we want answers, this is it. Let's get them straight from the source. Let's figure this thing out. This will just be cool to see. And so I jumped in that group, man, and it was popping off left and right, just everybody introducing themselves. I think there's 12 of us in there. I think 10 or 11 half siblings in the donor, and people just started popping off and introducing themselves, and people from all over the U.S. and the donor introduced himself, and it was honestly just really cool to see where everybody's from and different backgrounds, and people were sending in pictures of themselves, and we're all like, "Does anyone look alike?" It was kind of cool. I told my wife it felt like a high school reunion. You don't know these people, you haven't seen them in a while, kind of thing. But it just felt like a good place. It was safe. Everyone was happy and excited, and there was no negative feelings. And it was a good thing to walk into for sure. But yeah, and then everybody just started sharing just where they're from, what they do for work, and how they found out. And then eventually we all jumped on a group FaceTime a week later and just all talked, and yeah, and so we still have this group message. We don't use it all the time, occasional life update here and there. Someone's having a kid, or someone's moving, or whatever. If we find a new sibling, we haven't. I think I'm the most recent one. We found one that popped up on our 23andMe and messaged the person, didn't get a response back. We're always trying to find ways we can add more people, and it was interesting because getting in this group, some of these people have known for their entire life. Some people have known forever. Some people found out because a parent told them, like me. Some of them found out because they took DNA testing for fun and got results and said, "Mom, Dad, what is this?" It was crazy to hear people's discovery stories and how different they are. But some of these people have gone really deep and have done a lot of research and have found a lot. I think our group has 10 or 12 siblings in it, and our DNA has 12 or 15 or something like that. But I think they've done put all the resources together, and I think they found they joked around, they're I'm number 25. We finally hit a big milestone. I'm sibling number 25. And so it's pretty interesting, the fact that we're aware of 25, but only 12 of them are in the group and willing to talk about it and stuff like that is pretty interesting. So, but yeah, and so that's kind of everything with where we're at now. We have that group. My family's aware. It's part of my story, part of who I am, and yeah, it's really cool. It's not something I think about every day for sure. And so it's something that's nice. But people bring it up, and I'm like, yeah. Or I talk about my family dynamic. I'm like, oh, this is weird, or yeah, the other fun part is I'll get into it a little bit later. But there's my donor has a really cool story himself, just about being all over the globe and stuff like that. And so that's always a weird thing. But yeah, I think the weirdest thing is when I talk about it. You talk about where your family's from, or DNA or hereditary ties or whatever, and I start talking, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've got family in Australia, and they're like, oh cool, where? And I'm like, oh, Brisbane. And they're like, oh cool, you've ever been out there to visit them? And I'm like, it's different, yeah. So some stuff will come up like that, but other than that, it's really cool, man. It's a lot of fun. But I know a long story, but thanks for letting me share.
No, of course. I have many questions. I think the first one I'll start with, and I guess I share this in common with you, is that it seems like from the earliest days of discovering all of this, outside of the obvious shock that you felt, you seem to have a positive mindset with it and looked at it as a good thing, like something that could open doors for you potentially, rather than something that, was this huge, bomb that dropped on you and you didn't know how to recover from it. So what do you attribute, whether it's, lifestyle practices, whether it's the family environment that you grew up in, or something else, what made you look at this and say, oh, this is cool, like I want to know more?
Yeah, I think for me, like first and foremost, I'm a Christian, and so I think my faith definitely played a role into it. Again, it's part of my story. It's part of who I am, and kind of how I mentioned, it made me feel really loved because it was something my parents, went through lots of hoops and stuff for. But also from a faith standpoint, like that's the story that God wrote for me, and God put me on this planet in a really unique and creative way, and that's really cool. And I know I'm not the only one. And I think that, finding, one, accepting that and just rolling with it. Like, again, like God did this in a cool way. My family loved me so much. They wanted to do so much to bring me here. And at the same time, like I already have this really big supportive family around me. It doesn't change anything, right? For me, it's like whether I was donor conceived or not, like whether I'm a donor's DNA or my dad's DNA, like my life looks no different. Like it doesn't change the house I grew up in. It doesn't change the fact that my parents got divorced when I was 2. It doesn't change the fact that I got a really awesome stepdad at the age of 10, or that me and my brother are really close and I love my family. And it literally doesn't change any of that. And, it's good that I know now, but whether I found out when I was little or found out on my deathbed, like my life would have looked no different. And I think that's the way I thought about it. And so, I try my best to personally, like one of the things I always talk about is just control what you can control. This is something definitely way out of my control. All these decisions were made before I was even conceived. So, I could, sit here and be upset and confused and all these things. And don't get me wrong, like I had negative feelings at first, for sure. Shock, confusion, a little bit of anger towards my mom just because I was never told. And in my head, I'm like, I'm married with kids. Like, how did you think not to tell me? And I think, that was definitely something that I wrestled with for sure. Like definitely was angry about that, but that I wasn't angry about being donor conceived. I was just more angry that it was kept a secret for so long. But secret or not, like whether I found out at the age of 5 or found out at the age of 27, like it doesn't change the donor conceived part of it. It just changes, the family dynamic of it. And then it's just something we just kind of embraced. And like having like my wife, she's the same page, like God brought you in this way, and your parents loved you this much to have you, and now it's just part of your story, and it's just something cool to talk about. And I love having friends, and I love relationships, and I love people, and that was just another way. Like, hey, here's 25 more people for you that you get to call part of your life. And so I don't know. I think I'm just a positive person in general, but definitely my faith is definitely where it rooted from, and then having supportive, loving family around me, and I think that was the other part of like wanting to learn more, was like my family wanted to learn more too. My cousins and my grandma and everybody like were so open about sharing everything. And they also were like, well, so what do you know? Like, have you met anybody? Like all, so, yeah, I think faith first and foremost, and then just supportive, loving family around me that just made me want to learn more. And I was like, hey, this is part of who I am. It's part of my story. It's, I can either, dwell on it, or I can, love it, enjoy it, and maybe use it for, something like this, of having the opportunity to share my story. Or, crazy enough, I told this lady, I was like, I don't know. I was in Austin, so I'm with some friends, and we're in a parking lot. We're unpacking, we're doing this big fitness competition. And I'm telling my friends the story of how I found out. And this lady is in this car next to me unpacking her van. And she goes, "I'm so sorry to interrupt. But I promise I wasn't like eavesdropping, but I kind of heard what you were talking about." And she like points to her kids in the car. And she's like, "My youngest daughter in there, she's adopted. What advice do you have for me?" And I was like, okay, hold on. I was like, this is completely different. I was like, I think donor conceived and adopted are different, but if I have any advice for you, it's don't hide it. I guess. I mean, just make sure she knows and knows from the beginning and doesn't question it, and like knows that it's okay and it's part of who she is, and it doesn't change anything about you or how you love her. I don't know, stranger on the street. And she was like, "Yeah, that sounds good, thanks." And I was just like, I looked at my friends and I was like, what just happened? Like, we're in a parking lot in Austin? And like, but that's again another way, that God could use my story to maybe give advice to other people. Like, I think that's the way I kind of look at it now. And I don't think about stuff like that much, but when it pops up in a parking lot, sure, so. But.
Yeah, I've had random people eavesdropping and chime in at certain points of me sharing my story as well, and not with the desire to gain advice from me necessarily, but more just intrigue. Like they're kind of like they find themselves hearing this and have never heard something like this before and just want to know more. So I think it's important for people who are donor conceived to share their stories, just to bring awareness to the completely unique journey that we unexpectedly find ourselves on, especially later in life, right? Like many of us don't know this about ourselves until we're in our 20s or 30s or even 40s. I've seen stories of people who find out even later in life. So I think what I've learned from it all is, to the best that I can, be open about it, share it, don't shy away from it. It's part of who I am, and people should know that. So I see only good coming from telling these stories, which is why I started this podcast.
Yeah.
But I understand the challenges that others face, and that sometimes there are obstacles that are outside of their control that kind of keep them from being able to be as open as people like you and I are. But I think the aim should always be towards openness and not shying away from it. And clearly you have something foundational that allows you to be that way. So whatever you believe that is, I think, that's at the root of who you are. It's valuable. It's something to cherish.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Not everybody has that.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that kind of, before you and I even got on here, we kind of talked about was, you see a lot of, we're in all these groups, Facebook groups and all these things and whatnot of, hearing all these stories of people that like, it changes a lot of things for the worse, like it can break up a lot of families or ruin a lot of relationships. And some people kind of, I don't like to use this word, but some people can kind of spiral with this stuff. And when they learn and like, I'm not dismissing anybody's emotions, and I don't want to do that. And it's important to, feel all the emotions and feel all the feels with it. But I don't think it's something that, should improve in relationships, or it's something that, relationships or families should, be changed over. And, I get it. It was a secret. It's hard. Like trust is something that families are built upon and relationships are built upon. But, it's also one of those things where it's like, with my mom, like I try to put myself in their shoes of like, 30 years ago, like I mentioned, it was probably taboo. It was probably just something that wasn't it was so unique. It was maybe there was negative, connotations behind it, or maybe, people thought about it negative or whatever it may have been back then. We weren't there years ago with our parents to make this decision, and we don't know what went into the decision and what was behind it. And so I think, trying to have that realization too, and just like kind of putting ourselves in their shoes of like, it was probably different. And so, with how things are now, you gotta think about that and put yourself in their shoes of, well, I don't know what I would have done. Maybe I would have kept it a secret. I don't know. But luckily we don't have to do that. You're not in that position. And so we just, not let it change what has already happened, the relationships we have, and not let it be a negative experience. We both can kind of attest to, this is a positive experience. We're able to share our story. We're able to relate to other people. Maybe that's just the way maybe that's how I look at it. Maybe that's why, things happen to people, is so that we can find these groups and find these niches and come together as communities and lean on each other, because it's not all, dandelions for sure. When people find out, it can be traumatic, but at the same time, people like us can, be there for those people of hey, this is how we saw it, and it doesn't change our family. I don't love my family any less. And so I hope that's the same for you, maybe, but yeah, it makes me kind of sad to see that it can have such a negative effect on people's lives. And I think maybe that can be our role in this space too, is, having these conversations and being there for people and things like that. But yeah, I don't know, how can you not be positive about it? It's kind of fun. It's kind of quirky. It's cool. It's who we are. What are we going to do about it,
Yeah, that's how I see it too. I'm curious what you've seen in your relationships between your mom and your dad since this has all come out in the open. How have things changed, if they have changed?
Yeah. So my dad, again, my dad and I are just we have an interesting relationship. I didn't grow up living with my dad or anything like that. It was just, and I was the kind of kid and teenager, I hung out with my dad, so you hang out with my cousins. Don't get me wrong, I love my dad and all and everything. But that was just the selfish, teenage boy in me. And then as I've gotten older, when I was an older teenager into high school, into college, our relationship kind of drifted apart for sure. We didn't really talk that much and whatnot. I mean, that's a whole different conversation. But as I got older, and I guess as my dad has gotten older, and gotten married and had kids and everything like that, I think we've all have kind of realized we need to spend more time with each other. And so we were already kind of getting closer, and that's kind of, I guess, the reason he had the comfort of telling me my whole story. And I think since then, I definitely gotten closer. I don't know if it's because of, knowing this now, or just that's just the natural progression our relationship has been. It's just getting closer as I get older. Yeah. And then also my dad and I have never had heart to heart, conversations about sensitive things. And I've had a couple of those with him now because of this, which is pretty cool. For example, my family, again, my dad's side family, they love to make jokes about it. And I pulled my dad aside one day and I was like, hey, if the jokes that they're making about this, bother you, let me know. They don't bother me, yet. At least they don't, right now. But if they bother you, let me know and I'll make sure they stop. And he's like, no, it's okay. And so I've never had an emotional conversation with my dad like that. And so, I think it's made our relationship a little bit closer for sure, which is cool. Mm-hmm. As far as my mom goes, a little different. I don't think, I'll be honest, we honestly haven't talked about it at all. I think besides talking to her over Thanksgiving, letting her know that I know, that's the last time we've talked about it. So it's been over a year. And so, I'll openly say this on the podcast. She doesn't know that I know everything. She doesn't know that I know all my half siblings and the donor and things like that. She doesn't know that I've talked to them, and that's on me. I've been looking for the right time to tell her, but if I just keep waiting for the right time, I'm never going to get the right time. And so, yeah. But yeah, I think it's my goal to definitely tell her within the next few months, and this podcast kind of put a little extra pressure on it, and I'm okay with that. That's fine. But it's just, again, for my mom, it was very emotional time just to bring it up. And so I think I've personally been scared to bring it up just because it's an emotional thing for her. And I'd say our relationship is, I think we can feel the tension there. It's kind of weird. Since we brought it up, it's been a little and maybe that was on me too, because I feel like I kind of pulled the reins back a little bit of just like still trying to think about it. And, I was kind of upset that I didn't know. And so I think maybe that kind of sheltered me off a little bit. I've kind of put a wall up, and, but it hasn't changed our relationship at all, but I can feel there's a wall there. And that's definitely something I want to break down and get rid of and have that conversation with her about for sure. But I think that's the other thing is like growing up, like I really didn't have like an emotionally intelligent conversations with my parents. I just kind of grew up by myself and grew up fast. And so I think that's one thing that this has kind of forced me to do is like have these emotional conversations with my family that I didn't have before. And so that's definitely a positive change that's come out of it, is it's kind of made me have those conversations with them and made me kind of connect with my emotions and my parents, and which didn't really happen growing up. So yeah, I think it's definitely been more of a positive, nothing negative or anything like that for sure. But with my dad, I feel like we've gotten closer and had those conversations. With my mom, I feel like that's the next step for us for sure. Mm-hmm. But it hasn't changed like how much we talk or anything like no.
Got it. Yeah, there's definitely some commonality there too for my experience, where it's, you're having these heavier emotional conversations, but there's the realization now that it's okay to do that. It's, this is a safe space. We all support each other, and we're allowed to go to those difficult spaces in our minds and in our emotions, and it's okay. We can do it together. We can support one another through it. So that's been my experience. And it sounds like you've had a little bit of that with your dad, and it sounds like it might be coming with your mom soon too.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Going back to the donor and the half siblings. So not only do you know who your donor is, but you have a direct line of communication to him. What has that been like? And have you spoken to him directly over the phone, or is it just through that one group that you have? How does it feel, and how has it been having that access?
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. And so just kind of some background. So our donor was born and raised in Australia, actually. He came to the States for school and needed to make some money while he was here. And so he donated. And then after he graduated, he went back to Australia. And so that was kind of cool. And that was something I saw in the paperwork too. It was like birthplace, like Australia. And I was like, oh, okay. Things happen. Did know that like basically his whole life's in Australia. He had a stint of school in the US, and that was it. And so, that was pretty interesting. And so when I got in the group, everyone's like sharing where they're from. I'm the only one from Texas. Everybody's kind of spread out all over, coast to coast, which is really cool. And then he's all the way out in Australia. And so, we message in the group all the time. Like I said, if something pops up or a life update, like one of our half siblings just announced that, she was having a baby. And so everybody, all excited and all whatnot, which is really cool. And then, they'll chime on. There's just a lot of life updates here and there. But whenever I first found out and I came into the group, we were talking pretty often, like every day, as a group, never really like one-on-one with anybody or anything like that. But then we hop on I think we had one or two like FaceTime, like group FaceTimes that got in there and, heard everybody talk and talked about it and stuff like that. And, which was really cool, hearing from, half siblings and, donor himself, and just kind of talking and hearing, we kind of grill him with fun questions of like, when you were donating, like, what did that look like? Like, how many times were you having to go? Like, what did they tell you? Like, did you know you were going to have this many, like, kids out here? Like, we just grilled him all these questions, and he is really just like truly accepted, like, that's his story. And he openly admitted, he was like, I was expecting like 2 or 3, maybe 4 kids out of this, not 25. Like, and he laughs about it too. And like, that's something that's really helpful too, is the fact that like, he can be so lighthearted and just like happy and excited, about it and everything. And just like, hey, this is my life. And so it kind of trickles down to us too, of like, that's how we all are in this group. For sure, which is really cool. Everybody just, has turned into a positive experience. And so it's a really fun, lighthearted group. Actually, one of our half brothers, him and his family, they went on just like a country road trip just as for a vacation, to go sightseeing and see all these things in different places and whatnot. And they actually made some of their stop choices based on where we lived. And he actually met up with some of us. And so he came through Dallas on the way back out to California, and like we met out for dinner, like our families and his family, and just had pizza and hung out for hours and just like talked about, I guess, life and our story and whatnot. And that was really cool. So that's really the only like one-on-one time I've had was with him, and actually the only person I've met in person, which was really cool. And everybody always asks me like, "Are you going to go out to Australia and meet him?" I'm like, I don't know about that one. That's a big trip.
That's a long flight.
Yeah, but we're always trying to get him to the States, and like maybe we'll all meet up in the States or something like that. But yeah, it's really cool. Again, everybody, like I said, it kind of feels just like I don't even know how to describe it. We just feel like a group of friends, like that just have maybe we all crossed paths at one point, like in high school. Like I said, like a big high school reunion, we still talk, but like, but yeah, so those conversations are fun, really lighthearted. We share a lot of family stuff. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it. It's fun. Like I said, we don't talk every day. We're not, maybe once a week or every other week, someone will chime in and say something or just check in or, current events or something like that, but it's cool. It's lighthearted. I've never opened that conversation and like have had negative feelings or like anything like that. Like it's just all fun. Like, and that's the coolest part about it.
Yeah. Are there, as you've met the one half sibling and then have had conversations in the bigger group, are there things that you have notably seen that you all share in common, whether it's something personality wise, whether it's mannerisms, whether it's the way you speak or you text? Like, are there things that you look at and you're like, oh, the nature side is definitely factoring in heavy here?
Yeah. The one joke is the eyebrows. We're all Italian. We all have the thick Italian eyebrows. We talk with our eyebrows, a lot of facial expression. That's the joke. But one real cool thing is pretty much all of us are in the service industry as far as work goes. A lot of teachers, nurses, social workers, healthcare, like that's like the four that we all work in. Like, I think maybe one sibling is does like technology or something like that. But like all of us have some sort of like servant driven job of like helping people. And I think that was one of the first things that like we all noticed once I got in the group and everybody was like sharing what they do for work. And they were like, wow, like, I guess I never noticed that. Is like we all kind of work in the same line of just helping other people, which is pretty cool. And I think, how much of that is nature versus nurture for sure is interesting. But yeah, I think that's probably the biggest similarity that's really, really cool of like, we all just want to help other people and we all that's what we do for a living. And that's really cool. But I think that's probably the biggest thing. I don't know if there's anything else or any other mannerisms you notice. There's some others that like I think the girls definitely, that's the other thing. It's a lot of girls, not a lot of guys. I think in that actual group, I think there's only 2 or 3 guys.
Wow.
And so it's a lot of have sisters. So I think the sisters have a little more similarities than I've, have noticed. Maybe just, some mannerisms they have and things like that. And again, I'm the new kid on the block. I'm the newest person in the group. So maybe there's some stuff I haven't seen yet.
Got it.
But yeah, I'd say that's probably the biggest one. That's pretty cool.
Going back to, growing up, I think your story is interesting in that your family was all tuned in and knew your story before you did. So were there ever moments when you were a kid or getting into your teenage years where you felt like something was in the air that you didn't know about, but you just couldn't identify it? Or did your family do a really good job of not letting out, any clues about all of this?
So yeah, growing up, I don't think there was like maybe a little bit on my dad's side, but again, that was always like the running joke was me and my brother look nothing like my dad's side. Obviously, we are both have no ties to that side, blood wise now, that, but we always knew that from my brother. Um, and so for me growing up, I definitely didn't like look like anybody, but I looked a lot like my mom. So that was I just thought, I look a lot like my mom, and like, but also thought like I get the dark features from, my dad's side, like, the dark facial hair, the dark eyebrows, the dark hair, like the Italian features. Like, yeah, I get that all from my dad's side. Um, but yeah, definitely looking at pictures of like my dad as a kid, like nothing alike, body type, all that stuff, like nothing like my one of my boy cousins looked more like my dad as a kid than I did. And so, but again, I guess I just never put two and two together. Just was like, I got a lot of strong mom DNA, I guess. I don't know. Um, and that was always like the joke growing up was like, I can, my cousin still says this, but obviously it makes sense. But she's like, I don't get how you and your brother are so good looking, and then we're just here. Like, she always made that joke growing up. Um, but yeah, I guess yeah, just never put two and two together. Everybody did a really good job of hiding it. Even like if I brought up that I didn't look like my dad, um, I guess. But I just like I remember growing up just hearing from my aunts of like, you look so much like your mom, like you look just like your mom, spitting image of your mom. And so now I'm like, did I really look a lot like my mom, or were you just trying to reinforce something? No, I'm kidding. But yeah, no, I think that was the biggest thing was I never really felt it. They did a really good job of hiding it. I mean, I thought it was a joke when I first learned, so I'd say they did they did pretty good.
Yeah. And when this was all out in the open and knowing that your family was aware of this, what did you see primarily in them? Was it relief that you were in on it now? Was it excitement that you were in on it now? Was there trepidation where they didn't know how to approach you with it? What kind of things did you see from your family members?
Yeah, I would say definitely a lot of relief, and more just kind of like happiness around it. Like they didn't feel like they had to tiptoe or because I think the biggest thing that like my cousins on my dad's side, they were like talking amongst each other, like, does he know? Like, how do we know he knows? Like, does he know yet? Like, does he know just hasn't said anything? Like they just didn't know if I knew. Like, I mean, they were just like walking on eggshells. They didn't know. And so, um, once I finally told them, I can't remember how it came up. I think it was like around Thanksgiving again or Christmas or something like that. And we're all hanging out, and another one of those comments came up about just like how I don't look like anybody, or and I was just straight up, I was like, like I didn't know if they knew, and I was like, I'm not like blood to my dad, right? And she was like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, we know that. You're good, all right, sweet. And then at that point, like once they all knew that I knew, like again, like I mentioned, it became like a joke, and people joke about it lightheartedly, and they have a good time with it. I think they were all definitely like relieved, and like I know my aunts were like really relieved, and they also like reassured me. They're like, how do you feel about it? Like, this changes nothing about us and how much we love you, and like I hope you know that like that shouldn't change how you feel. And I was like, yeah, I don't feel any different. Like y'all are still my family. Nothing, it doesn't change anything. Like, I still love you guys. Like, and then definitely like on my mom's side, my grandma was like, thank God. My grandma was terrified. She was like, I thought I was gonna have to take that to the grave. Like, I was so terrified. I'm so glad you know. Like, so
Hmm.
that was good too. And so definitely a lot of relief. Um, my mom's side again, still no one talks about it at all. Maybe my brother and his wife talk about it because that was the other thing was my brother's wife was like would ask my brother like once a year of like, does your brother know yet? Does your brother know yet? He's like, I don't know. He hasn't said anything. I don't know.
Hmm.
And so yeah, definitely people don't have to walk on eggshells anymore. I
Yeah.
think they're definitely more relieved. I mean, I couldn't imagine like my little brother, like I don't have one, but if I had a little sibling, like of knowing this is their story,
as a kid, it's easy, but especially as you watch them get older and you watch them grow up and you watch them graduate high school, graduate college, and get engaged and get married and have kids, like as a brother, like that's got to be so hard. Or like as a family member in general. But like, I say brother just because like you're probably super close to your siblings. So it's like, yeah, I don't know how they kept it a secret. I don't know how no one let it slip. I don't know how anybody was just like, screw it, you need to know this. Like, um, yeah, it, I don't know how they did it. That's a big secret, and they did a really good job, I guess. But I
Yeah.
can see how it's a big weight off their shoulders now, and yeah, it's just light. No one has to dance around anything anymore or walk on eggshells. It's all fun now.
Yeah. We kind of touched on this before, but I want to see if there's anything else that you would attribute this to. You know, especially in your case, with your family being aware of this, it can be alienating. Like it could bring about an alienating feeling for you, where it's like, oh, you guys are all in on something that I had no idea of, and it's all about me. That can feel isolating, but in your case, you know, I know you mentioned that your faith carried you through a lot of this, but is there anything else in terms of the way you've chosen to live your life that you can point to and say, you know what, this gave me the strength I needed to not be crushed by this or to feel alone in this, and instead go the way where you have now embraced it and made it this exciting part of your life? Are there any other areas of how you've chosen to live that you can say, yeah, this helped me in this area?
Yeah. I think it's maybe a little bit of two things. I think obviously the first thing is like knowing that my family again is really like positive about it. I think that really helps me remain positive about it as well. Of just like my family being like, oh, thank God, cool. All right, whew, got that off our shoulders. All right, now it's a funny joke. And I'm like, so this isn't weird. Like they don't see it as weird, so I didn't feel like it was weird. So I think just like the fact that my family was super open about it and they didn't treat it like it was something weird or you know that made me so different or cast me aside or anything like that. Like my family was just like, ah, cool, all right, sweet, moving on. Like I think that really helped me for sure. Of just knowing that they didn't have any negative feelings about it, and they almost like had my back in it. Of like, oh, we're so glad you finally know. Like yeah, I've been wanting to tell you. Like it felt like they were on my side and they were in my corner and they had my back and they were supporting me this whole time without me even knowing. And so I think that's one thing that made me realize like I'm okay. Like this is okay. This is part of me and who I am. And again, just the reassurance of like my grandma and my brother and my cousins and aunts and uncles. Everybody's just been like, this doesn't change anything. You know that, right? Like everybody told me that. That's what I kept hearing. And I was like, yeah, you're right. It doesn't change anything at all. It literally changes DNA cells. That's the only thing it changes here. It doesn't change, you know, how you have loved me the past 28 years of my life. Like, it doesn't change that. So I think the family thing was definitely huge for me. Like, again, they could have been the opposite. They could have been, like, like, how do you feel? Like, I know it's been weird for me to hold it in. Like, it's been weird for me to know. Like, like if they made it weird, it probably would make me feel weird. And so the fact that they were so positive and supportive, that's all I felt. I never felt the negative side of it, which is really nice. And again, like I said, I initially felt the shock and like more of the confusion and like a little bit of the why didn't I ever know kind of thing. But again, that wasn't on them. Like I understand it wasn't their place to tell me that thing, and that's a big deal. And if I were in their shoes, I wouldn't have found it my place either. And so just the fact that like all they did was support, which was really cool. So that's all I felt from it was just love and support and positivity. And so that's kind of how it manifested me for sure. And then I think the other thing is just like I kind of touched on a little bit earlier. Is like for me, it's just like I want to control what I can control, and obviously that's something I can't control. And in my personal life, again, it doesn't change anything. Like I still have an incredible wife. I still have two beautiful kids, and whether I was donor conceived or not, like it doesn't change that. Like again, it just changes DNA and DNA makeup. And again, my kids are my kids, my wife is my wife, and my family is my family. Doesn't matter, And so I think just having them and literally nothing changing about them after finding out made me realize like, yeah, this is not as big as a deal as it may seem. And I know that I'm not like sweeping this under the rug and like I know I had one person tell me that. They were like, you seem almost too positive about this. Are you sure you've processed everything? I'm like, I've processed it all. Trust me. Like I laid in bed for like I couldn't sleep the night I found out. Like I've processed it. Like I'm okay. Um, and like I think yeah. So I mean I've processed it, and it's just again it's part of who I am. It's part of my story. It doesn't change anything about the life I've lived and the life I'm going to live. Besides like like, this happened 30 years ago before I was even on this planet. Like it is what it is. I'm gonna keep rolling with it. It doesn't change what I do for work. Doesn't change how I love people. If anything, it might be made me love people a little bit more just because like now I can think about like either people may have just found out something that may have shaken them to the core, or like there may be people out there that don't really know who they are, and it just makes you love people a little bit more, I guess. So
Yeah.
again, yeah,
Cool. Since you're a father, you said you have two kids.
yeah,
So you have two kids, and now that this information has come to light, it affects them in some biological ways as well. What kind of thoughts do you have as it pertains to your children now having this biological, I don't want to say unknown, because in your case you have access to your donor and can get a lot of the information that a lot of other donor conceived people can't, but
yeah,
there is this element of like, okay, a part of my genetic makeup comes from someone who, we don't have full contact. We don't meet in person necessarily. We've got this line of communication that's open, but it only serves, up to a certain point. How have you thought about the way this affects your children?
yeah. I definitely thought about it, and that was something that was pretty interesting because I think at first that was one of the reasons I was pretty upset too. Like with my mom of like not knowing was like I have two kids and I don't know a quarter of their genetic makeup. Like that was kind of weird. Like I was like that was where like the trust issue, like that wall kind of started to build up a little bit. Um, was like you didn't think to tell me like when I got married and I was about to literally pass on genetics. Like you'd think I should know all of my genetics I'm passing along. So I think that was definitely something I wrestled with at first, and kind of built that wall up. Um, but at the same time, like, I mean, I do know and whatnot, and but at the same time, like, whether I found out or not, like, that doesn't change anything about like my kids, and it doesn't change anything about who they are. It doesn't change anything about how I'm gonna raise them or how me and my wife love on them or anything like that. And so I think, yeah, at first I was just like, that's yeah, that's weird. But again, that's like the part of them that doesn't even matter. Like as a dad, like whether they were all of my DNA or zero of my DNA, like they're my kids and I'm gonna love them the same, no matter what. And so I think at first I was like, that's weird, but at the same time, like, nah, whatever. Like they're my babies, like regardless. Um, but the one thing I have definitely like kind of like wrestled with, and it's like something I don't have to worry about now, is because they're so young. Like they're 3.5 and 2, like they have no clue. But when they get to the age of like, at what point do I tell them about where where like where like about daddy's story? Like at what age do I tell them? Or first off, they've got to understand conception, how that works. That's the first step. Then just go over their head. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, like at what point do I tell them and like fill them in on it? Of like, hey, like already have a complicated situation because you have two grandpas on dad's side. But like here's two grandpas on this side, but at the same time, like this is not dad's dad 100%. Like this is this little background story, and I think it's the hardest part is like, at what point do I tell them and fill them in on the situation, and like, or like whenever we met up for dinner with one of my half siblings, I mean we're the same age obviously, and then he has two kids about the same age as mine, um, and my oldest and his oldest were just like hanging out, and it was like, how do I explain who this is to you? Like,
Hmm.
we're just gonna stick with friends for now.
Yeah.
We'll cross that bridge in years down the line, but like these are just our friends, and we're okay with explaining that for now. Um, and they truly are friends, right? And so, um, I think that'll be a fun thing to come across in the future. But yeah, at first it was a little weird, but again, it was one of those things where it doesn't matter what the DNA makeup of my kids are. They're still my kids. They're still mine. I love them to death, and nothing will ever change that. So, yeah, that's kind of where I sit on that. But yeah, that was the interesting thing to think about for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Any other closing thoughts that maybe we haven't touched on yet that you think are worth sharing, or anything that you think is important for people either in the donor conceived community or outside of it, that you think they should be aware of?
Yeah, I'd say first, just in general, like I know this can be a weird topic to kind of talk about, and it can be awkward and it can be weird and maybe feel a little taboo, but I don't want it to be that way for sure. Like I mean, obviously, by you doing a podcast and creating this space, like you see it the same way I do. Like it's just something that should be talked about. Like it shouldn't be something that's like weird or like kept hidden or anything like that. Because again, you know, it doesn't change who we are as people. It doesn't change who we are as humans. It doesn't change anything besides, yeah, our DNA and our genetic makeup. But that's all it changes, right? And it doesn't change how we live our life, and it shouldn't change how we live our life. So I definitely, you know, it's something that people shouldn't be afraid to talk about, and it shouldn't be something that feels taboo or weird. Um, and so I'd start off by saying that, and then other thing is jokingly, if you are keeping a secret about someone being donor conceived, don't hang on to it for too long. When it's the right time, it's the right time. But just make sure people are in the loop. And then for people that are donor conceived out there, or people that may one day find out they are donor conceived, or you're questioning it, or whatever it may be, um, explore it. Like there is nothing wrong or weird about it. I think we have both done a really good job at turning it into a positive, and I hope that for everybody. I want it to be a positive for everybody, and it I want people to know that it's okay, that it's part of their story, and I want them to be comfortable to talk about it and laugh about it and smile about it and just accept it for who they are. And I don't want it to be something that's negative or something that puts up walls in relationships for people. Or I hope it gives people the confidence and the courage to tear down walls if they've already built those walls and know about it. Like people that have already found out that they are donor conceived, and if they have those walls, like I encourage you to explore them and tear down those walls, and don't let this change something for the worse. Um, Again, this is just something that makes us who we are. It's quirky, it's weird, it's funny, it's silly, it's all the things. And I encourage people to feel all those things and don't let it change anything in a negative way. But just keep living life positively and keep loving on people and just keep being who you are. And it's part of your story. Accept it and share it. And you never know whose life you might change or touch. So I'll leave it at that.
All right. I want to give a big thank you to Mitch for being so open with your experience and giving us a peek into how this revelation has affected you and your family. There's definitely a lot to chew on here, but I think one of the key factors that could lead someone to sort of fearlessly look at their new biological identity the way Mitch has, and the way I myself have as well, is knowing there's a strong support system in place and that there's an army of people who have our backs. Mitch has a big family he's close with, and so do I. That presence has always been there for us, and even though we're not necessarily getting together all the time, I myself know they're always there. To have a family to play that role is a pretty big advantage, I would say. But it's not even the fact that they're family, I don't think. It's the fact that we have people we can trust who are looking out for us. Those people could also be friends, or they could also be members of a community. The key, I believe, is choosing to connect with those people. Connection. That's an ingredient of life we can never, ever have too much of. And that's a wrap on this one. We will see you again next week with another new guest. Bye-bye.